Okay, let's do some quick notes here about kites, and probably know what the shape of a kite looks like, generally speaking, because you've probably flown a kite or something as a child or at some point in your life. But when we're talking about kites in geometry, there's a couple things that we need to remember. So the first thing is that it's a quadrilateral with two pairs of congruent sides. Well, let's go back for just a second here. A quadrilateral, we know, adds up to 360. That's one of the things that we know about a quadrilateral. Has four sides. Okay. And it says it has two pairs of congruent sides. Well, if you look, you can probably pick which pairs are congruent. So you've got this side is congruent to this side. So you have JK is congruent to KL. The other pair of congruent sides are the long ones here. Okay, so we would have JM is also congruent to LM. The diagonals are perpendicular. Okay, so if we look at that, that means these diagonals going from one corner to the other are going to make right angles. Okay, so I know that this is going to be a right angle. Oops, right here, hang on. It's not quite writing on here. There we go, that's a right angle. All four of those angles are going to be 90 degrees because those yellow lines or the diagonals are perpendicular, and one pair of opposite angles is congruent. What that means is that if you look, this top angle and the bottom angle are not congruent, right? Angle K and angle M, the top and bottom, are not congruent. One's obtuse and one is obtuse. However, if you look, this angle here, angle J, is congruent to angle L. So that's the property there. And then the other thing about kites is the diagonals bisect that other pair of angles, okay? Which means, just a quick note, that this angle right here, this little guy, is the same as that little guy. And this little guy right here is the same as that little guy right there. So let's just look at a few practice problems with kites. Okay, so here we have a beautiful kite that you could be flying in the air at any point. We want to find the measure of D, and we want to find the measure of F. Okay, so we want to find D, and we want to find F. Well, let's see. We know that angle E is 115, and we know that angle G is 73 degrees. And we also know that D and F, those are those angles that are across from each other that are congruent. So we know that that angle and that angle are the same. We also know that since it's a quadrilateral, it adds up to 360 degrees, which means we then can just say all four of those angles added together equal 360 degrees. So we could say there's x plus x, that's 2x, plus 115 plus 73 equals, remember it's a quadrilateral, so it's going to be 360 degrees. If we combine our like terms there on the left, we get 188. And if we subtract 188 from both sides, we get 172. And if we divide by 2, we get x equals 86. Okay, so you're going to have to use these properties from before about quadrilaterals to go along with the kites. Okay, so now we have just some practice problems down here, similar to what you just did up there. Some of them, yep, they are all kites, it looks like. So let's do one here at a time. We know that G and E are going to be congruent to each other because that's the opposite angles that are congruent to each other. So we could say that x plus x is 2x, plus 100 plus 40 is 140. It's a quadrilateral, so it's going to equal 360. If we subtract 140, again, this is just the basic algebra part that goes with it, we get that x equals 110. Okay. All right, so what do we know here? Okay, we've got this angle is congruent to this angle, so we know those are the same. We can say x plus x is 2x, plus the other two angles, it's quadrilateral, so they're going to add up to up to 360. We don't have consecutive angles that add up to 180, and we don't have base angles that are necessarily the same. So we're going to have 150 plus 90, oops, equals 360. And go ahead and combine our like terms. We get 240. If we subtract 240 from both sides, we get 2x equals 120, so x equals 60. Okay, let's see what we know here. Okay, I know that these are my two angles that are congruent. Okay, so I know if this one's 110, this top one up here is also 110. And I don't know what that angle is, so I do know that 60 plus 110 plus 110 plus x equals 360 because they are quadrilateral, so they add up to 360. When I combine my like terms here, I get 280 plus x equals 360. And if I subtract 280 from both sides, I get x equals 80. Okay, last one. This is a nice short quick video. Let's see. I know that this one's 110. It's asking me to find angle G, I do believe. Yep. So I don't know what angle G is, but I know if this one's 90, it's got a little square in the corner. I know that this one is also 90. So just like the other questions, I'm going to have x plus the other angles, 90 plus 90 plus 110. It's a quadrilateral, so it's going to equal 360. Oops, that should be a 90 right there, not a 99. X plus, let's see, that'd be 180, 280, 290 equals 360. If I subtract 290 from both sides, I get that x equals 70. Okay, so we're using the idea with the kites of angles, opposite angles there, here being equal to each other, and the idea, excuse me, that it's a quadrilateral, so it adds up to 360 degrees. So what you need to go ahead and do now is once you're done with the notes, you can go ahead and do big ideas. And there's a homework assignment online for 7.5.